A little gypsy girl stood alone in the middle of a desolate winter highway, her small figure barely visible against the raging blizzard. Snow swirled violently around her, biting at her pale face. Her wide, tear-filled eyes were full of despair as she waved her tiny hand desperately, calling out to anyone who might hear. "Help! Please follow me!" she cried, her voice trembling with urgency. She pointed toward the dark forest, her gestures frantic, as if something or someone was waiting for her there. The highway was busy despite the storm. Cars sped by, their drivers either too preoccupied or too wary to stop. Many glanced at the girl but chose to avoid the strange situation. The sight of a lone child in such harsh weather felt unreal, too bizarre to be true. However, not everyone passed her by. A middle-aged man driving an old but reliable car spotted the girl through the haze of snow. Something about her desperation struck a chord deep within him. He slowed down, his instincts urging him to stop. Rolling down his window, he leaned out and called to her. "What's wrong? What happened?" The girl ran up to the car, her tiny frame shivering from the cold and exertion. Her voice was hoarse, almost drowned out by the howling wind. "Mom, my mother, she fell. I can't leave her. Please help." Her words pierced through him like a dagger. There was no hesitation in his mind. Every second counted. Without another word, he opened the car door. "Show me the way," he said firmly, stepping into the freezing storm. The girl didn't waste a moment. She grabbed his hand, her small fingers icy to the touch, and pulled him toward the edge of the forest. The wind howled louder, snow stinging their faces as they pushed through the trees. The man's heart raced, not from exertion, but from fear of what they might find. Minutes later, they reached a clearing. There, lying motionless in the snow, was a woman. Her face was hidden beneath a woolen hat, and her body was almost entirely covered in a thin blanket of snow. She looked lifeless. The man crouched beside her, his breath clouding the frigid air. He carefully turned her over and checked her pulse. Relief flooded through him. She was alive, but barely. Her skin was ice cold, her breathing shallow. She had clearly been out in the cold, far too long. "She needs help right away," he said, his voice steady but urgent. "Quickly, get back to the car." The girl nodded, her young face filled with a mixture of fear and determination. She sprinted toward the car as fast as her small legs could carry her. The man gently lifted the woman into his arms. She was light, too light, and her body felt fragile against his. Shielding her from the wind as best he could, he carried her to the car. Placing the woman in the back seat and wrapping her in a blanket he had in the trunk, the man jumped into the driver's seat. The snowstorm showed no signs of letting up. The road ahead was treacherous, covered in a thick layer of ice and snow, but he didn't let that deter him. "Hang on," he whispered, glancing back at the unconscious woman. "We're going to get you to safety." The girl sat quietly beside him, clutching her knees to her chest. She glanced at the man with tear-filled eyes. "Will she be okay?" The man gave her a reassuring smile, though his own heart was heavy with worry. "We'll get her to the hospital. They'll take care of her." The drive felt like an eternity. The blizzard was relentless, reducing visibility to mere feet. The man gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white. His thoughts raced, calculating every turn and every second lost to the storm. He knew that time was their enemy. Finally, after what felt like an age, the glowing lights of the hospital emerged through the storm. Relief washed over him as he pulled up to the emergency entrance. Nurses were already waiting, alerted by a call he had managed to make during the drive. The medical staff acted swiftly, carefully lifting the woman onto a stretcher and rushing her inside. The man and the girl followed, their boots crunching on the icy ground. Inside the warm hospital, the contrast was almost overwhelming. The girl's cheeks, red from the cold, began to regain their natural color as the warmth enveloped her. Minutes later, A doctor approached them with a gentle smile. "She's stable," he said. "She was suffering from hypothermia and a severe shock, but you brought her here in time. She'll recover." The girl's face lit up, and for the first time since the ordeal began, she smiled. She turned to the man, her eyes brimming with gratitude. "Thank you, Uncle. Thank you for saving my mom." The man knelt to her level and placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You were brave to call for help. You did the right thing. Your mom is lucky to have you." As the man left the hospital that evening, the storm finally began to subside. The snow still blanketed the world in white, but the wind had calmed and the stars began to peek through the thinning clouds. This act of compassion and bravery in the heart of a winter storm became a powerful reminder of the importance of kindness. In the face of adversity, a stranger's willingness to stop and help had made all the difference. Dear friends, let this story warm your hearts as much as it did mine. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories that celebrate the beauty of human connection and compassion.